It was supposed to be a majestic celebration under the African sky, a renewal of wedding vows broadcast live to the entire nation, until the country's most admired wife exposed a secret that destroyed the region's most powerful family empire in seconds. But what no one imagined was that this woman had spent 18 months meticulously planning every detail of that moment, a silent revenge that would reveal secrets buried for 3 generations. Stay until the end to discover how a woman who lived in her husband's shadow for 2 decades transformed humiliation into power. This story will change your perspective on justice, tradition, and the true meaning of wisdom. The main ballroom of the Grand Meridian Hotel shone brighter than ever. Imported European crystals reflected the golden light of the African sunset, creating a kaleidoscope of colors that danced on the walls paneled in fine wood. The tables, decorated with rare orchids and traditional kente fabrics, accommodated 400 guests, politicians, business people, and celebrities who smiled and whispered, all eager to witness the renewal of vows of the country's most influential couple. Mekina Okafor stood beside her husband, Gabriel Okafor, with a serene smile that belied the turmoil within. At 52, she still possessed a classic beauty, enhanced by the traditional yellow and blue dress that elegantly embraced her figure. Her eyes, however, carried the weight of secrets and pain accumulated over decades. "Everything is perfect, just as you deserve," Gabriel whispered, adjusting the gold brooch on his own traditional attire. He was the personification of modern African success, builder of an empire that had begun as a small export company and now controlled half the country's economy. His posture was that of a man accustomed to being obeyed, his smile calculated to display confidence and authority. "You've always known how to organize memorable events, haven't you, darling?" Mekina replied, her voice as soft as velvet, as her fingers adjusted the small remote control hidden in her bag. The master of ceremonies announced the start of the celebration. Traditional drums began to play, marking the solemn rhythm of the occasion. Gabriel led Mekina to the center of the hall, where a small altar decorated with ancestral symbols had been prepared. Behind them, a giant screen displayed photos of the couple throughout the years, always smiling, always perfect. "Welcome to this celebration of love and commitment," began the community elder, dressed in the ceremonial robes that symbolized his moral authority. "We are here to honor 25 years of union between Gabriel and Mekina Okafor, a marriage that has brought prosperity not only to them, but to our entire nation." Applause filled the hall as Gabriel smiled, nodding his head in feigned modesty. Mekina kept her eyes fixed on the horizon, visible through the panoramic windows. The sun was beginning to set, tinging the sky with red and orange. It was the signal she had been waiting for. "Before we renew our vows," Gabriel said, taking the microphone, "I would like to thank my wife, Mekina, for her dedication to our family and for her quiet support, which has been fundamental to the success of the Okafor Group." He paused dramatically. "As the proverb says, behind every great man, there is a great woman." Some polite laughter echoed through the room. Mekina smiled and, in a smooth movement, pressed the button on the remote control in her purse. "And as the ancients say," she replied, her voice surprisingly firm, "truth is like water, it always finds a way to flow." At that moment, the screen behind them changed. Instead of photos of the happy couple, images of Gabriel with another woman appeared, Nia Kimathi, his partner in international business. These weren't just compromising photographs of an extramarital affair. They were screenshots of emails, financial documents, bank transfers, and secret contracts. A deathly silence fell over the room. Gabriel froze, his face alternating between pallor and redness as his eyes scanned the images that followed one another on the screen. What does that mean?" he managed to stammer, his voice losing all its previous authority. Mekina stepped forward, taking the microphone from her husband's trembling hands. "It means the moment of truth has arrived, darling." Her voice now held a firmness few had witnessed before. 18 months ago, I discovered not only your infidelity, but also how you've been using our marriage to conceal questionable business decisions." The crowd remained in utter shock. Cell phone cameras began to record the moment, while photographers hired for the event fired off incessant flashes. "The Okafor Group was built with my family's money," Mekina continued, "with my father's contacts and with my own work, which you were keen to keep in the shadows. For 25 years, I stood by your side, believing your word, trusting your character. Today, before everyone who knows us, I reveal the truth I have discovered." Gabriel tried to take the microphone back, but Makina gracefully stepped away. On the screen, new documents appeared, records showing that the Okafor Empire had begun with Makina's family's money, invested when Gabriel was just an ambitious young man without resources. "Makina, have you gone mad?" Gabriel hissed, trying to keep his voice low despite the rage consuming him. "You're destroying everything we've built." "No, Gabriel. I'm just revealing who really built all of this." She turned to the audience. "I apologize for turning what should be a celebration into a moment of truth, but as our tradition teaches, a lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is putting on its shoes." At that moment, the double doors of the hall burst open with a bang that drew everyone's attention. Zola Okafor, the couple's eldest daughter, entered with determined steps, her heels echoing on the marble floor. The red dress she wore, the color of courage in her culture, contrasted dramatically with the surroundings. Her face, so similar to her mother's, displayed the same determination that everyone now recognized in Makina. Walking beside him was Jamal, the middle son, recently returned from abroad. Tall like his father, but with his mother's compassionate eyes, he wore an impeccable suit that combined Western elements with traditional African details embroidered on the sleeves. The serious expression on his face revealed that he was fully aware of what was happening. Following them came a group of trusted executives whom Gabriel had always considered loyal to him. A silent betrayal now revealed publicly. The whispers in the hall grew louder as the three Okafors positioned themselves beside Makina, forming a united front that Gabriel had never anticipated or imagined possible. "Tonight marks not the end, but a new beginning," declared Makina, her voice now heavy with restrained emotion. "Starting tomorrow, the Okafor Group will undergo a complete restructuring. As the majority shareholder, a fact Gabriel has kept hidden from all of you for decades, I announce that our company will return to its roots: integrity, community, and sustainable growth." Cameras filmed everything as Gabriel Okafor, the most powerful man in the country, watched his empire crumble before his eyes. His face, once confident and authoritative, now showed the despair of someone watching the mask fall completely. The vow renewal ceremony became the epicenter of a social, economic, and emotional earthquake that would shake the country in the coming months. And that's how the downfall and subsequent transformation of the nation's most powerful family began. The Okafor mansion, once a symbol of power and opulence, now seemed somber and silent. In the lush gardens, gardeners worked as if nothing had happened, but their sidelong glances revealed an awareness that everything had changed. Gabriel sat in his private office, surrounded by mahogany walls and awards that now seemed to mock him. Outside the window, he could see the reporters camped at the entrance to the property. 3 days had passed since the disastrous ceremony, and the press remained hungry for more details of the scandal that dominated every conversation in the country. "Your lawyer has arrived, sir," the housekeeper announced, avoiding looking directly at him. Moments later, Kofi Mensah, a corporate lawyer with the Okafor Group for 15 years, entered the room. His normally impassive face showed clear signs of concern. "The damage is irreversible, Gabriel," he said without preamble, placing a folder on the table. "Makina has proof of everything, and the worst part is, she's legally correct. The initial money did indeed come from her family, and the documents she presented prove that you deliberately kept her as the majority shareholder for tax protection, while excluding her from important decisions." Gabriel slammed his fist on the table. "There must be a way out. I built this empire with my own hands. With her hands as well," Kofi corrected with forced calm. "And public opinion is completely on her side. You won't believe the numbers from the polls I commissioned." He opened the folder, revealing charts and tables. 87% of the public supports Makina. Women, in particular, see her as a symbol of resistance against the erasure of women in business. And the investors, well, they are willing to continue with the Okafor Group, but under new leadership. "My own leadership," Gabriel exclaimed. "No more," Kofi replied, handing him a document. "The council voted this morning. As an extraordinary measure, you are temporarily removed from the presidency." While Gabriel was processing the blow, on the other side of town, in Makina's old family home, a restored colonial mansion in the historic district, a different kind of meeting was taking place. Makina sat at the head of the dark wood dining table that had belonged to her grandmother. Around her were Zola, Jamal, and her youngest daughter, Amara. who had hurriedly returned from university abroad after the scandal. Also present was Tamba Ndiaye, a respected financial consultant whom Makena had secretly met in recent months. The Okafor Group is facing its biggest crisis of confidence, explained Tamba, sliding documents across the table, but also its greatest opportunity for transformation. I still can't believe Dad hid all this for so long, said Amara, the youngest of the 22-year-old daughters, whose eyes still showed the shock of the revelation. And that you found out all by yourself, Mom. Makena smiled sadly. I wasn't alone. I had help from people who were also underestimated by him. She looked at Zola, who nodded silently. As the group's director of social projects, the eldest daughter had been repeatedly ignored at board meetings. Her ideas on corporate responsibility dismissed as unproductive charity by her father. The important thing now, Jamal interjected, is how we move forward from here. We're already receiving purchase offers from competitors who can sense the blood in the water. We will not sell, Makena declared firmly. We will transform. During all these months that I have investigated your father's business dealings, I have uncovered not only irregularities, but also missed opportunities. The Okafor Group could be so much more than it is. Tamba opened his laptop, projecting graphs onto the wall. Makena is right. The exclusive focus on short-term profitability prevented investment in emerging sectors. While Gabriel concentrated on oil and mining, he completely ignored renewable energy, technology, and sustainable tourism, areas where our country could lead on the continent. And you ignored the communities you exploited, Zola added bitterly. The villages around our mines received crumbs while we extracted billions. Makena stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the garden of her childhood home flourished with native plants. Her grandmother, a pioneering trader who had traveled throughout West Africa trading textiles and spices, had planted many of them. My grandmother used to say, "A tree with deep roots doesn't fear the wind," Makena said, turning to face her family. Gabriel built our empire like a sandcastle, impressive but fragile. We will rebuild it like a baobab tree, strong, enduring, and beneficial to everyone around it. Their children exchanged glances. It was a version of their mother they had never known, determined, strategic, visionary. Where do we begin? Jamal asked, leaning forward. Makena smiled, returning to the table and opening a folder she had kept. I've already started. Over the last 6 months, while gathering evidence against your father, I've also been working on this. She unveiled a comprehensive and detailed business plan, including financial projections, market research, and implementation strategies. The new Okafor Group, she announced, a company that honors our traditions while embracing the future. The next morning, Gabriel woke to the sound of his phone. It was Kofi, his lawyer, sounding surprisingly excited. Turn on the television now. National channel. Gabriel picked up the remote control with trembling hands and turned on the TV in his room. On the screen, to his complete shock, was Makena, impeccably dressed in a traditional business suit, giving a live interview from the main lobby of the Okafor Group headquarters. This is not about revenge or division, she said calmly. It's about course correction and reconciliation with our original values. The Okafor Group should always have been a vehicle for uplifting our nation, not just a family. The camera showed a crowd of employees behind her, all applauding. Among them, Gabriel recognized executives he believed to be loyal to him. And what about your husband? The reporter asked. Will Gabriel Okafor still have any role in the company? Makena paused deliberately before answering. I believe that every person has the capacity to grow and change. The doors to reconciliation will never be completely closed, as long as they are accompanied by true repentance and genuine change. Gabriel turned off the TV with a brusque movement. His first reaction was fury, but something in her words struck him in an unexpected way. Reconciliation? Change? Was she still considering a way back? His phone rang again. It was Nia Kimathi, his lover and partner in international business dealings. Gabriel, we need to talk. Her voice sounded tense. I'm being investigated. The documents Makena revealed are leading authorities in 3 different countries to question our transactions. Nia, calm down, he tried to say, but she interrupted him. I can't calm down. They're freezing my accounts. I need you to resolve this immediately. I'm working on it. It's not working, she shouted. If I fall, you fall with me. I have many more documents that your wife would love to see. The threat was clear. Gabriel felt a chill run down his spine. Nia, whom he considered his closest ally, was now turning against him. After hanging up the phone, Gabriel remained seated on the edge of the bed, feeling trapped. For the first time in decades, he was not in control of the situation. The empire he had built, which he believed he had built alone, was slipping through his fingers. Meanwhile, in the small village of Kubwa, 3 hours from the capital, an unexpected transformation was beginning to take place. Trucks bearing the Okafor Group logo arrived carrying construction materials, medical equipment, and school supplies. Personally leading the operation was Zola Okafor, the eldest daughter of the family. "This community center will only be the beginning," she explained to the elders gathered under the shade of a large tree. "Our company has extracted resources from this land for 15 years. It's time to give back properly." "Why now?" asked Mosey, the oldest leader, his face marked by decades of sun and wisdom. "What has changed in the hearts of the Okafor?" Zola smiled, gazing at the horizon where the group's mining facilities were visible. "Let's just say we've found our true north again, Baba Mosi. My mother reminded us who we were meant to be." "Ah, Makina," the old man smiled, revealing a knowledge that surprised Zola. "I knew your mother when she was young, before she married your father. She used to come to this village with her grandmother to buy fabrics made by our women. She had an eye for seeing the value in simple things." This revelation struck Zola like an epiphany. Her mother had connections to these communities that her father had never known or valued. Connections that could now be the basis for a new relationship between the company and the people. In the capital, Jamal Okafor faced his own challenge. As interim chief financial officer, appointed by his mother, he had the difficult task of calming international investors alarmed by the sudden change in leadership. "The group's fundamentals remain solid," he explained in a video conference with shareholders from 3 continents. "And our new strategic direction opens up opportunities that were previously overlooked." "But his father built this company," argued an American investor. "Without him, who guarantees the continuity of the vision that brought us this far?" Jamal took a deep breath, controlling his irritation. "With all due respect, sir, my father didn't build this company alone. The initial capital came from my mother's family. The internationalization plan that tripled our value was developed by a team that included my sister Zola, whose contributions have rarely been publicly acknowledged." He paused deliberately before continuing. "Furthermore, the practices my father implemented in recent years placed the group at significant legal risk in several jurisdictions. Our new leadership is not only preserving the company's value, but saving it from potential disaster." On the other side of town, in a discreet cafe in the financial district, Amara Okafor, the youngest daughter, was secretly meeting with someone who could completely change the game. Ada Achebe, head of the country's financial market regulator. "The documents your mother revealed are just the tip of the iceberg," said Ada, a 60-year-old woman whose reputation for integrity was legendary. "For years we tried to investigate certain activities of the Okafor Group, but your father had powerful political protections." "And now?" Amara asked. "We are now in uncharted territory," Ada replied, taking a sip of her tea. "If your family cooperates fully, reveals all irregularities, and implements substantial reforms, we can consider an agreement that allows the group to survive while holding the true culprits accountable." Amara felt the weight of the decision she would need to communicate to her family. "This could mean my father would face legal consequences." Ada nodded gravely. "Yes, but it would also mean that her family's legacy wouldn't be completely destroyed. Sometimes, Amara, to save a body, you have to remove the diseased tissue." At the end of the day, the 3 generations of Okafor women gathered again in the ancestral home. Makina listened attentively to her children's accounts of the day's events. When they finished, she walked to an old carved wooden chest in the corner of the room and took out a carefully folded, colorful piece of fabric. "This belonged to my grandmother," she said, unfolding the cloth to reveal a traditional kente with intricate patterns in gold, green, and red. Each symbol on this fabric tells a story of our family, of strength, perseverance, and integrity. She traced a specific pattern with her fingers. "This one represents Sankofa, a mythical bird that looks back while flying forward. It means we must know our past to build a better future." Makana looked at her children with determination. "That's what we're doing now, acknowledging past mistakes to create something better." "And what about Dad?" Amara asked, her voice betraying the complex emotions she felt. "Your father will have to make his own choices," Makina replied. The path to redemption is available to him, but the decision to take it must come from within. The following day, the nation's newspapers and news portals awoke to sensational headlines. Okafor Empire under new leadership, Makina announces radical reforms. Below the main headline, a photo showed Makina flanked by her 3 children at the entrance to the corporate headquarters, all wearing clothes that blended traditional elements with modern cuts, a symbolism that did not go unnoticed by cultural commentators. Gabriel observed all of this from his suite at the Hotel Continental, where he had taken refuge to escape the press camped out in front of the mansion. His phone rang incessantly, political allies withdrawing support, business partners breaking contracts, even longtime friends inventing excuses to cancel appointments. When the maid knocked on the door bringing his breakfast, he barely had time to thank her. The woman, however, paused before leaving. "May I say something, Mr. Okafor?" He looked at her, surprised by her audacity. "My daughter has worked at your group's textile factory for 6 years. Yesterday, for the first time, company representatives visited the site and announced improvements in working conditions and a new profit-sharing plan. The workers cried tears of joy. Before Gabriel could answer, she added, 'Your wife is doing something beautiful with what you built. Perhaps it's worth thinking about.' And she left, closing the door gently behind her. Those simple words struck Gabriel more deeply than all the sensationalist headlines. For a fleeting moment, he allowed himself to consider a different perspective. What if Makina wasn't just destroying what he had built, but saving him from himself? At the Okafor Group headquarters, a physical transformation was beginning to reflect internal changes. The imposing glass and steel building, which for years had symbolized the cold and distant power of the corporation, now pulsed with new life and purpose. Walls were torn down to create more open and collaborative spaces, allowing natural light to flood areas previously separated by opaque partitions, a physical metaphor for the new policy of transparency. Local artisans were hired to cover structural columns with traditional carvings that told stories of cooperation and community. In the main lobby, the imported marble floor was partially replaced by a mosaic created with stones from different regions of the country, each representing a community where the group operated. Large format photographs of local communities, natural landscapes, and workers in action replaced the austere portraits of Gabriel that previously dominated the corridors. The former executive meeting room, once an inaccessible sanctuary on the top floor, was transformed into a community space with round tables, without head tables, symbolizing equality, where employees of all levels could meet to collaborate and share ideas. The windows, once covered by heavy curtains that blocked the view of the city, now remained open, visually connecting those who worked there with the community they served. At the main entrance, a new motto was inscribed in gold lettering on hand-carved local wood. "We grow together, we thrive together," in English and the 3 main local languages. Below the motto, a circular water fountain symbolized the continuous flow of resources and ideas between the company and society. Makina walked through the hallways, stopping to chat with employees, many of whom were actually seeing her for the first time. For years, she had been just Gabriel's wife, a decorative figure at corporate events. Now they were discovering an articulate leader with a clear vision and surprising knowledge of all facets of the business. "Mrs. Okafor," called a young analyst, rushing to catch up with her. "I have a suggestion for the rural development program we are implementing." In earlier times, such a direct approach to an Okafor would have been unthinkable. Makina smiled, genuinely interested. "I'm listening." As the young man explained his idea of combining traditional agricultural knowledge with modern technologies, Makina recognized something of herself in him, the desire to be heard, to contribute something meaningful. For how many years had she herself had ideas ignored by Gabriel? "Excellent proposal," she replied when he finished. "Prepare a detailed presentation for our project meeting next week. I want the whole team to hear it." The young man's face lit up with surprise and gratitude. As he walked away, Makina reflected on how small acts of recognition could transform an entire organizational culture. That afternoon, an unexpected visitor arrived at Makina's new residence. Mama Yawande, a respected elder known for her role as a traditional mediator in family and community conflicts, stood at the door, leaning on her cane carved with ancestral symbols. "I came at the request of the elders," she explained after Makina invited her in and served her hibiscus tea, respecting custom. What happened between you and Gabriel isn't just a private matter. When leaders like you are in conflict, the whole community feels the impact." Makina nodded respectfully. Despite all the modernization, the role of elders as guardians of community wisdom was still deeply valued in society. "I didn't come to tell you what to do," Mama Yawande continued, her piercing eyes assessing Makina. "I came to ask, what is your ultimate goal in this situation?" The question caught Makina off guard. For so many months, she had been so focused on exposing the truth and regaining control that she had never really stopped to clearly articulate her ultimate goal. "Justice," she began, but then paused, realizing the word carried multiple meanings. "Not just justice for me, but for everyone affected by Gabriel's decisions. And transformation of the group, of our family, perhaps even of Gabriel, if he's willing." Mama Yawande nodded slowly. "True justice restores. It doesn't just punish. Remember the proverb, when weavers quarrel, the fabric tears across the entire village." Meanwhile, Gabriel faced his own, albeit reluctant, journey of self-discovery. Isolated and increasingly desperate, he found himself revisiting long-suppressed memories of his humble childhood, of his alcoholic and abusive father, of his youthful promise never to be vulnerable or dependent on anyone. He remembered when he met Makina. She, the daughter of a respected family with deep roots in the region's commercial history. He, an ambitious young man with big dreams but few resources. How she had believed in him when no one else did. How her dowry had financed his first ventures. How, gradually, he had begun to rewrite that story in his own mind, positioning himself as the sole architect of his success. His phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. It was an unknown number. Hesitantly, he answered. "Gabriel Okafor?" asked a male voice. "Try. This is Baba Mosi, from the village of Kubwa." Gabriel frowned, trying to place the name. "Your daughter Zola was here this week," the elder continued. "She reminded me of something I witnessed many years ago. Do you remember her first visit to our village? She came with her father-in-law to negotiate mining rights." The memory slowly surfaced. Gabriel had almost forgotten that initial period when he still depended on Makina's father's influence to open doors. "You made promises that day, under our sacred tree," Baba Mosi continued. "You said that Kubwa's prosperity would grow along with yours, that our children would have an education, our families would have health, and our water would remain clean." Gabriel felt a lump forming in his throat. He had truly made those promises, and he had believed them in that moment. "Your daughter is beginning to fulfill promises you made 20 years ago," said the elder. "It's never too late for a man to remember his own words." After hanging up, Gabriel remained motionless for several minutes. The conversation had awakened something he had buried deep within him, a sense of purpose that went beyond the accumulation of wealth and power. At the Okafor Group headquarters, an extraordinary meeting of the board of directors was underway. Makina presided with natural authority, presenting a comprehensive restructuring plan that combined financial viability with social responsibility. "This is not just a business plan," she explained to the assembled executives and directors. "It's a statement of values. For years, the Okafor Group has pursued growth at any cost. Now we will redefine success." She paused, observing the faces around her. Some skeptical, others curious, a few openly enthusiastic. She knew it wouldn't be an easy or quick transformation. "Some of you have worked with Gabriel for decades and may be wondering if you still have a place here." Makina looked directly at the senior executives. "My answer is, it depends on you. I'm not looking for blind loyalty to me, but commitment to these new principles." The meeting room door opened unexpectedly, and all eyes turned to the intruder. Gabriel Okafor stood in the doorway, without his usual impeccable suit, dressed in simple clothes and looking tired. "Gabriel." Makina broke the shocked silence, her voice controlled. "This is a private board meeting." "I know," he replied, his tone surprisingly humble. "And I know I have no right to be here. But I ask for 5 minutes of your time. After that, I will leave and respect whatever decision you make." Makina looked at the other council members, then nodded briefly. 5 minutes. Gabriel walked to the front of the room, aware of the stares that mixed curiosity, disdain, and pity. He stopped beside Makina, but kept a respectful distance. "For 2 decades, I presented myself as the visionary behind the Okafor Group," he began, his voice lower and less commanding than usual. I convinced everyone, including myself, that this empire was the sole result of my work, my intelligence, and my leadership. He paused, visibly struggling to find the right words. I was wrong. This group was born from a shared vision, mine and Makina's. It was built with her family's capital, with connections she brought, with the support she gave me when no one else believed in me. Surprised murmurs echoed around the table. Makina remained impassive, though her eyes betrayed that she was just as surprised as the others. Over time, I forgot about it. Worse, I deliberately erased that truth because it threatened the narrative I had constructed about myself. And in that process, I betrayed not only my wife, but the values that originally inspired me. Gabriel turned to face Makina directly. I'm not here to ask for my place back. I know I lost that right. I'm here to say, publicly, that you have always been the true moral force of this group, and that I fully support the new direction you are implementing. He then took an envelope from his pocket and placed it on the table. Here is my formal resignation from all executive positions in the Okafor Group. I will retain only the shares that rightfully belong to me, without contesting the redistribution that Makina proposed. And, he hesitated briefly, I am willing to fully cooperate with any investigation into questionable past decisions. The silence that followed was dense enough to be broken. Gabriel glanced one last time at Makina, an unspoken message passing between them, then turned to leave. Gabriel. Makina's voice stopped him at the door. Why this sudden change? He turned slightly. Baba Mosi called me. He reminded me of the promises I made 20 years ago under the sacred kubwa tree. I realized I had forgotten not only you, but myself. With that, he left, leaving behind a room in utter shock. In the weeks that followed, the transformation of the Okafor Group accelerated under the renewed leadership of Makina and her children. Headlines that initially focused on the scandal began to highlight the positive changes. Okafor Group launches country's largest solar energy program. Okafor factories implement profit sharing with workers. Makina, Okafor Foundation inaugurates training center for women entrepreneurs. Gabriel stayed out of the spotlight, quietly cooperating with investigations and, to the surprise of many, making regular visits to communities affected by the group's operations, listening to complaints and suggestions without the usual public relations teams or security personnel. On a particularly hot afternoon, Makina received an unexpected call from Zola. "Mom, you need to come to Kubwa," said her daughter, sounding intrigued. "Dad's here. You won't believe what he's doing." 3 hours later, Makina arrived at the small village where the new community center was nearly finished. The intense African afternoon sun created a kaleidoscope of colors on the newly painted walls of the building, where local artists had created murals depicting the history and traditions of the region. Children ran around, their laughter echoing in the warm air as they curiously watched the vehicle of the big lady, as they called Makina. A young teacher approached, her eyes shining with admiration. "Mrs. Okafor, what an honor to receive you again. Your daughter is overseeing the installation of the computers in the new library, and She hesitated, uncertain how to refer to Gabriel after all that had happened. "And Mr. Okafor is under the sacred tree, with the elders." Makina thanked him with a kind smile and followed the dirt path that snaked between the simple but well-kept houses of the village. The aroma of fresh bread mingled with the sweet scent of wildflowers that grew abundantly along the sides of the path. In the distance, he could hear the sound of drums, young people practicing for the upcoming harvest festival. Following the directions, he found Gabriel in an unlikely place, seated in a circle with elders and young people from the community, under the broad shade of the great sacred tree, a centuries-old baobab whose massive trunk could shelter 10 men inside. Gabriel was completely absorbed, listening attentively as a group of local teachers presented a plan to integrate traditional knowledge into the modern school curriculum. He was dressed simply, without the expensive suits he once considered essential to his public image. His face showed a genuine concentration she hadn't seen in years. Makina remained at a distance, observing without interrupting. When the meeting ended and people began to disperse, Gabriel finally noticed her. He seemed momentarily alarmed, then resigned, and finally walked towards her. "I didn't come here to inspect or interfere," she said before he could speak. "Zola told me that you've been visiting the communities." Gabriel nodded. "I'm trying to understand where and how we lost our way, how I forgot the promises I made here." Makina studied his face, searching for signs of the arrogance and manipulation that had defined their last few years together. To her surprise, she saw only weariness and something that seemed genuinely regretful. "Why now, Gabriel? Why, after losing everything, do you suddenly rediscover your consciousness?" He considered the question for a moment before answering. "Because now I have nothing to gain from this," he finally said. "There's no strategy here, McKenna. I'm not trying to recover what I've lost. I'm just trying to remember who I was before power corrupted me." They walked side by side to a rustic wooden bench in the shade of the sacred tree. For a long time they remained silent, observing the movement of the village. Children running, women carrying baskets of produce from the market, men returning from the fields. "Do you remember the first time we came here together?" Gabriel finally asked. "Your father brought us. You were pregnant with Zola." McKenna nodded. The memory was vivid, the fear and hope of those early years, when they were still partners in every sense. "It was here that I promised your father I would take care of you and our children forever," Gabriel continued. "And to this community, I promised that our prosperity would be shared." He looked at his hands. "I broke both promises." The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky with golden and orange hues, reminiscent of McKenna's grandmother's kente fabric, a symbol of continuity through generations, of wisdom passed on. "What do you want, Gabriel?" she finally asked. "From me? From our family? From yourself?" He looked up at the horizon before answering. "I want the chance to correct some of the mistakes I've made. Not all of them. I know some are irreparable. But the ones I can fix, I want to try. And what about us?" The question hung between them, laden with decades of shared history. "I have no right to ask for your forgiveness or a second chance as a husband," he replied with surprising honesty. "I only ask for the opportunity to prove, with actions, not words, that I can change, that I can contribute positively, even from afar." McKenna felt a complex mix of emotions. The man beside her seemed both familiar and strange, echoes of the idealistic young man he had known decades ago, now aged and broken by his own choices. "Time will tell," she finally replied. "Words are easy, Gabriel. True change requires consistency and perseverance when no one is watching." He nodded, accepting the answer without arguing. Another sign of transformation. On the way back to the capital, McKenna drove in silence, reflecting on the unexpected encounter. Next to her in the passenger seat, Zola finally broke the silence. "Do you think he's really changed?" McKenna considered the question carefully. "I think a process is beginning. Whether it will continue or not, only time will tell." "And you? How do you feel seeing him like this?" McKenna sighed. "Complicated. Part of me is still hurt and distrustful. Part of me remembers the man I loved. And a third part is curious to see if he will truly find a better path." Zola nodded in understanding. "You know what Baba Mosi told me about forgiveness? That it's not a gift we give to others, but to ourselves." McKenna smiled, recognizing the wisdom. "Your great-grandfather used to say something similar. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and hoping your enemy will die." 3 months later, the transformation of the Okafor Group was the subject of study in international business schools. The new corporate governance model implemented by McKenna, which included representation of workers and communities on the board of directors, was inspiring other companies on the continent. On a sunny morning, when the dew still glistened on the leaves and the scent of jasmine flowers perfumed the air, McKenna gathered the whole family in the garden of their ancestral home for a special ceremony. The sky was a deep blue, without a single cloud, as if nature itself were blessing the moment. McKenna's 3 children attended with their respective families. Zola brought her husband, a university professor whose knowledge of African history had become invaluable to the Okafor Group's cultural initiatives. Jamal came with his wife and 5-year-old twins, curious boys who ran around the garden chasing colorful butterflies. Amara, still single but accompanied by a young diplomat whom everyone suspected was more than a friend, completed the family circle. Older women from the community, dressed in vibrant traditional attire, had been invited to lead parts of the ceremony, bringing drums, kalimbas, and other traditional musical instruments. The gentle sound of ancestral songs floated through the air, connecting the present to the past. In the center of the garden, where the sunlight formed a perfect circle among the shadows of the ancient trees, a hole had been prepared to plant a baobab sapling, the sacred tree known as the Tree of Life in many African cultures. The small sapling, with only 3 leaves emerging from its thin trunk, seemed fragile, but everyone there knew the immense potential contained within. "This tree," Makina explained to her young grandchildren, who were watching curiously, "can live for over 1,000 years. When you are old like me, it will still be growing. And when your grandchildren come here, it will be majestic." Jamal approached with a small carved chest. Inside it was Makina's grandmother's kente cloth, carefully preserved. "Our family history is interwoven like the threads of this fabric," Makina continued. "There have been moments of glory and shame, of unity and division. But as this fabric shows us, it is the complete pattern that tells the true story, not just the individual threads." She made a sweeping gesture toward the surrounding garden, where fruit trees planted by previous generations provided shade and food. "Just as we care for these trees that we didn't plant but inherited, we must care for the legacy we will pass on." That moment, an unexpected visitor appeared at the garden gate. Gabriel stood there, hesitant, holding a package wrapped in traditional paper. Makina exchanged glances with her children before making a subtle gesture of invitation. Gabriel entered and approached the family circle, maintaining a respectful distance. "I heard about the baobab ceremony," he said. "It's an important tradition." Zola, who had grown closer to her father in recent months through community work, asked, "Did you bring anything to the ceremony?" Gabriel nodded, unwrapping the package to reveal a small, aged leather journal. This was Makina's grandmother Nanaya's original business ledger. "I found it in the corporate archives where it was incorrectly filed decades ago." He handed the diary to Makina. "It belongs to your family, not the company, and it contains the true story of how our group began, with the seeds your grandmother planted as a pioneering merchant." Makina accepted the diary, her fingers tracing the initials engraved on the cover. Her grandmother had been educated at a time when few women had access to education, and she kept meticulous records of her business transactions. "Thank you for returning this," she said. "It's an important part of our history that almost got lost." Gabriel nodded, then looked at the small baobab sapling. "May I contribute to the ceremony?" After a moment of consideration, Makina nodded. Gabriel approached the tree and, to everyone's surprise, knelt beside the sapling. "When I was a boy," he said, addressing mainly the children, "my grandfather taught me that we plant trees not for ourselves, but for those who will come after us. It's an act of faith in the future." He took a handful of soil and gently placed it around the base of the sapling. "May this tree grow strong and true, without the flaws that marred my own journey." The ceremony continued, with each family member contributing in some way: water, earth, a word of blessing. When it was over, the children ran off to play while the adults gathered for an informal lunch. Gabriel began to walk away discreetly, but Makina caught up with him before he reached the gate. "You can stay for lunch," she offered, "as a friend of the family." He looked at her, surprised. "Are you sure?" Makina considered for a moment before answering. "The baobab tree takes 100 years to grow fully, and another 100 to bloom in all its glory. Some journeys are long, Gabriel, and some damage may never be fully repaired," he honestly acknowledged. "True," she agreed, "but our story isn't over yet, and our choices going forward can still create something meaningful for the generations that come after us." As they walked back to where the family gathered, Makina reflected on the long journey that had brought her there. From the passionate young woman to the betrayed wife, from the vengeful strategist to the visionary leader. Each role had been necessary. Each experience had forged the woman she was now. The sun shone on the garden where past generations had planted trees whose fruit now nourished the present generations. Amidst the laughter of children and the conversations of adults, Makina felt a peace that transcended simple revenge or triumph. It was the feeling of a circle coming full circle, of a story finding not its end, but a new beginning. Like the newly planted baobab tree, the future was still full of unwritten possibilities. And like her grandmother's kente fabric, the true pattern would only be visible when seen in its entirety, with all its threads interwoven, the bright and the dark, the straight and the crooked, each contributing to the beauty and strength of the whole. On the horizon, the African sun began its descent, bathing the family garden in golden light. A new day was ending, and with it, a chapter in the Okafor family history. What would follow would be written not only by Makina or Gabriel individually, but by the collective wisdom of a family that had rediscovered its roots and its purpose. As the old proverb that Makina's grandmother used to repeat went, "If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together." The Okafor Empire, once built on the quicksand of arrogance and individualism, now found more solid foundations in community and ancestral values. And in the center of the garden, the small baobab sapling began its centennial journey, its roots growing invisibly beneath the soil, while its first branches stretched towards the sky, a living symbol of the promise contained in every new beginning.